Greetings, brothers and sisters. Welcome to another awareness session of Reconstructing Minds Incorporated in partnership with Positive Lifestyle Management and Ghetto Gospel Awakening the Sleeping Giant. My name is Shantario, aka Brother Midnight. Tonight I got another interesting session for you. This will be part three on the importance of uh, registration of voters. In another case, voters registration. And tonight I'm going to begin with the August 27th, 1982 letter, beginning in the third paragraph. And it states this. It says, initiative is a self-reliant enterprise. It is impossible to be successfully self-determinative without aligning oneself with initiative. If your conscience is lowly, it is because you have not taken the initiative to heighten it. Your consciousness of the moral right and wrong of your own motives, acts and motives. Initiative is the ardent wish that all goes well with our struggle meaning movement, that every act exhibits one's own contributions to what he believes in and what he stands against. And the reason I begin this with this letter is to show the importance on taking the initiative in our political development, especially dealing with voters registration. Um, it takes initiative, and the key, one of the key things I wanted to point out is that last sentence I read when it says, initiative is the ardent wish that all goes well with the struggle, that every act exhibits one's own contribution to what he believes in and what he stands against. And, we have to come to a realization that everything that we do is important to not only ourselves, but to our future generation, especially the youth. As it is stated within the literature, the youth is our future. The second letter I'm going to read from is the December 8th, 1982 letter. And I'm going to begin reading from that second paragraph. It says, before venturing off into the interior of the sheet, a few fruits of thought in this story that follows, we want to render to you for some thought. It says, the story that follows is about four people named everybody, somebody, anybody, and nobody. There was an important job to be done, and everybody was asked to do it. Everybody was sure that somebody would do it. Anybody could have done it, but nobody did it. Somebody got angry about that because it was everybody's job. Everybody thought that anybody could do it, but nobody realized that everybody blamed somebody when nobody accused anybody. And when I think about this story, it reminds me of our motto. It says nobody will be waiting on anybody, but everybody will be somebody. And in taking the initiative, we have a duty. You know what I'm saying, to put the rights legislation where they need to be, especially dealing with the system that we live in today. And one of the key things that we need to pay attention to how the youth is being targeted, especially in the urban areas all across the United States. I was on Facebook earlier and I was listening to this rap that a brother put together about all the men and women, young black men and women, and the youth were killed for being pulled over while being black. I read in an article the other day where a man went into a bank and was trying to pull money out of his account. And it's crazy that, people would automatically think that a black person wouldn't be able to pull that much money out of their account. What is he doing there? And the bank itself seemed it to be suspicious, not knowing that this man uh, was a producer, and it's just crazy, how society is so quick to stereotype the black and brown people. That's why it is so important that we take the initiatives to vote the right people into office, especially dealing with the legislation of the United States of America. Not only that, but our local, state, and federal governments. Now, I've been sharing some information and dealing with voters registration. And tonight we're going to be dealing with section 163-82.6 when it says acceptance of application forms. It says A, how the form may be submitted. The County Board of Elections shall accept any form described in the Grant Statute 163-82.3. If the applicant submits the form by mail, FISMO transmission of a scanned document, or in person, the applicant may delegate the submission of the form to another person. Any person who communicates to an applicant accept of that delegation shall deliver the form so that it is received by the appropriate County Board of Elections in time. The satisfying registration deadline in the subdivision 1 or 2, the subsection D of this section of the next election, it shall be a Class 2 misdemeanor for any person to communicate to the applicant acceptance of the delegation and then fail to make a good faith effort to deliver the form so that it is received by the County Board of Elections in time to satisfy the registration deadline in the subdivision 1 or 2 or of subsection D of the section for the next election. It shall be an affirmative defense to a charge of failing to make a good faith effort to deliver a delegated form by the registration deadline that the delegate informed the applicant that the form would not likely be delivered in time for the applicant to vote in the next election. It shall be a Class 2 misdemeanor for any person to sell or attempt to sell a completed voter's registration form or to condition its delivery upon payment. So we see how important it is that we pay attention to how these applicants are accepted, especially when it's dealing with the delegation and how that processes work. The next session, we're going to be dealing with those who have charges. And the first is misdemeanor charges. It shall be a Class 2 misdemeanor for any person to do any of the following: to communicate to the applicant acceptance of the delegation described in the subsection A of this section and then fail to make a good faith effort to deliver the registration deadline in the subdivision 1 or 2 of subsection D of the section for the next election. It shall be affirmative defense to charge of the failing of making a good faith effort to deliver a delegated form by the registration deadline, that the delegate inform the applicant that the form will likely be delivered in time for the applicant to vote in the next election. 2, it says to sell or attempt to sell a completed voter's registration form or to condition its delivery upon payment. 3, to change a person's information on a voter registration form prior to its delivery to a county board of elections. 4, to coerce a person into making a party affiliation other than the party affiliation the person desires. Number five, to offer a person a voter's registration form that has a party affiliation pre-marked unless the person received the form has requested the pre-marking. C. Signature. The form shall be valid only if signed by the applicant and electronically captured signature, including signatures or applications generated by computer programs of third-party groups, shall not be valid on a voter's registration form except as provided in Article 21A of this chapter. Notwithstanding the provisions of the subsection, an electronically captured image of the signature of a voter or electronic voter registration form offered by a state agency shall be considered in a valid signature for all purposes for which a signature on a paper voter registration form is used. So we see in this particular section is dealing with the charge if you mess up or, didn't do what you're supposed to do in good faith concerning the voters' acceptance. Then it talks about the signature, how the signature is electronically handled in printing on the voter's registration. All right, registration. D, it says registration on deadlines for a primary or election. In order to be valid for a primary or election, the form, one, if submitted by mail, must be postmarked at least 25 hours before the primary or election, except that any mail application on which the postmark is missing or unclear is validly submitted if received in the mail not later than 20 days before the primary or election. Two, if submitted in person by physical transmission or by transmission of a scanned document, must be received by the County Board of Elections by a time established by the board, but no earlier than 5 p.m. on the 25th day before the primary or election. Number three, if submitted through a delegate who violates the duty set forth in subsection A of this section, must be signed by the applicant and given to the delegate no later than 25 days before the primary or the election, except as provided in the subsection of this section. E, if the application is submitted by a physical transmission or transmission of a scanned document, a permanent copy of this completed signed form shall be delivered to the county board no later than 20 days before the election. So, I wanted to take the time out to really, continue in understanding the process of voters registration and how it works and the things that we need to make sure of in dealing with voters registration and how they work. I am in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I am a registered voter with a felony, with a 3 felonies, but I am able to still vote. And it's just vitally important that we understand the political processes of how things work, especially when it comes to voter registration. And with that being said, my name is Shantario, aka Brother Midnight. I hope we have learned something together. Let's continue to grow and develop together as we continue to learn about the importance of voter registration. Love to you all.